This is Create the Next from Pro CFO Partners, where every week we explore strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help today's businesses put their financial picture in context.
Welcome back to Create the Next. I'm Chris Bintliff. Kenton Gray joins us this morning. And Kent, as we've been talking about, what are the things people need to focus on right now? What are the things that we're hearing out there? What are the things that are going on that we want to discuss? One of those is this idea of profits and cash flow, which I think for so many of us in small and medium kind of enterprises almost feels like an accident. Hopefully our cash flow will allow us to, or it'd be great to be profitable this year. And maybe we put a few things into place, but I'm wondering about your thoughts on how can we really influence this? How can we be more competitive in our market? How can we have a longer lasting vision? What are the things that we can do, that we can control, that we can manage, that will help us influence these things so that it's not something that happens to us, but it's something that we are not just prepared for, but we're planning for?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you having me today. It's interesting times. It's an interesting business cycle. We've gone through several years of price increases, to customers, to consumers, and you read it every day. I mean, some companies are sounding the alarm bells, and it's like customers are frustrated, consumers are frustrated. They're paying too much. They don't want to pay this anymore. They're searching for substitute items. They're looking for ways to reduce their cost. And to me, that obviously impacts a business's top line. And the top line is key for any business. It's really where you start, and that's what generates your cash flow. And that's what generates your profit. And when you start to see maybe some cracks in that foundation, or maybe they're not cracks, maybe they're just tiny blips, how do you mitigate that? And there's a lot more than just sales that you can use to do that. And I call those financial levers of a business. I'm
so glad with where you just kind of kicked us off into segue that, because that is the first impulse is we need more sales, everybody, and is to throttle down the sales, put more into sales, like our sales teams can do anything more with the rock that they're squeezing sometimes. Right. So let's talk about that. What are some of these levers that I love that analogy too, that immediately brings to mind something actionable. And I love that on Create the Next, as any of you who've been a part of this know. I love when we get to practical, tactical, actionable stuff that we can do. So talk to me a little bit about that. What is a financial lever? Help us understand that and identify some for us.
In simplest terms, to me, a financial lever is really a tool that you use in your financial management system to drive increased profit and cash flow in a business. And I would think of it in terms of maybe a crowbar, and it's a small tool that can move a big rock. So that's what a lever is, and that's what you use levers for. You use a lever to dig a hole, but you got this big rock you got to get out of there, and a small tool can help you do that. And so in a business, there's seven different financial levers that a business can use. And again, it's not just sales. Sales and volume are really two of them. But as you walk down the levers in a business, after you get to sales and sales volume, or sales pricing and sales volume, then you run into cost of goods sold. Then you run into SG&A. And those are P&L items. And then you've got levers on your balance sheet, which a lot of folks ignore or don't pay attention to. You've got days in inventory, days in accounts receivable. You have days in payables. And, all of those are areas in a business on top of sales that should be looked at. And you can find levers in each one of those, and utilize those levers to improve cash flow and profitability.
Walk me through some of that. How pull one of these levers for me. Pull one of these less intuitive levers for me?
Well, let's just start with maybe a simple one that would be intuitive, and that's on sales increases. So if you have a $10 million business that's making a 10% profit margin, you increase sales by 5%. Well, that lever right there just increased your profit margin by 50%, and you added $500,000 in cash flow. So if you take the same business and you look at cost of goods sold, and let's say you move levers in that cost of goods sold section, which is probably your biggest opportunity in a lot of cases, by 8%. Well, that same business is increased now the profit margin by 60% and added $600,000 in cash flow. So those are some of the generic type scenarios that you would want to look at. On working capital, same concept applies. If you were able to extend your payables by 10 days, if you were able to reduce your accounts receivable by 10 days and decrease your days in inventory, that's cash flow right to the bottom. That's, on that same $10 million business, that could be $200,000 in cash flow. So it's just not all a sales exercise, as you said. There's a lot of different levers, even inside each one of these categories, for a business to pull.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense that when you mentioned cost of goods sold, you kind of indicated there's some nuance there that many organizations could look at. What do you mean? As we're exploring some of these more subtle things, or maybe to us subtle, maybe we haven't focused on them, what should I be looking for? Or how do I know if that's a lever that I should pull, or if it's a longer lever than another one?
Right. Well, the cost of goods sold, to me, is where a lot of the low-hanging fruit is in a business, because it's such a massive category. And a lot of the business owners, entrepreneurs, they're focused on sales, right? They're focused on increasing sales, getting product out in the marketplace, and they're focused on volume. And so sometimes cost of goods sold is kind of left and relegated to, the purchasing manager or for somebody like that. And so I always think that just given the breadth of the category, there's always opportunity in cost of goods sold. And typically where you're going to find it, because cost of goods sold, in cost of goods sold, your raw material input costs make up probably 60 to 80% of that. So go after suppliers. Look at ways in the supply chain to reduce those input costs. And I would simply start with, okay, are we well diversified in how we're buying our products? Do we have an A player, a B player, and a C player? And can we gauge the price we're paying the A player based upon what we're paying a B player? And can you leverage that? Can you leverage that volume? And most of the time, customers value or suppliers value your business, and they don't want to lose you. So just asking for a price decrease will typically get you there. It doesn't have to be a slugfest a lot of times. I mean, you really want to partner with your suppliers and create a long-lasting relationship. But at the end of the day, your business is very valuable to them, just like your customer's business is very valuable to you.
Is this a process where if I can identify my levers, get the right minds in the room to help us kind of figure that out, and we start to do this, we talk to our suppliers, we manage this, is it once you get that to a good place, everybody leave it? Or am I constantly kind of looking for ways to this slight adjustment? Maybe this one at first needs a big pull, but then down the road just needs a little tweak every quarter or something. How regularly should I be pulling my levers here?
Right. Well, I think it's just part of the way you do business, and what helps you see that and understand that is really by benchmarking, really by setting KPIs, really reviewing and collaborating with your leadership team. And your leadership team needs to include all facets of the business. It needs to include sales. It needs to include marketing. It needs to include your operations guy, your finance team, because they all have to work together. to move these levers. A lot of times you move a lever in sales and it impacts marketing, or it certainly impacts operations. So it's a collaborative effort. It has to be measured. One of the things that I've seen before, and every CFO has seen, is, okay, well, that's great. Let's use these levers, but then you over leverage. And then you create an avalanche. You're just not moving the rock. You're moving things that you didn't need to move. And so I think there's an element of strategy.
And you mentioned earlier, which I think is an important point, that sometimes the managers who are involved in the thing, the operations manager, the supply chain manager, the sales manager, they're focused on doing their job the best they can. They may not have the wide or deep perspective on the rest of the organization to kind of be able to understand that their lever could be pulled, or in what ways. And you mentioned that the leadership team needs to be kind of in lockstep on this. What is the role of the CFO? What should I be asking or relying on my CFO to be doing to help me not just understand these levers, but, as you mentioned, avoiding the avalanche? How do I entrust my CFO to be the right person for me to lean on to help me understand what to do in these situations?
Yeah, I think, first of all, the CFO can be a source of education to the whole team about, okay, well, what is this lever? And what exactly is it? What does it measure? What does it tell us? And then help the team guide the decision-making process on, okay, well, strategically, what's the best way to move the lever to maximize the profits in the business? And you really, it's not magical for the CFO. It's not something that just automatically comes to mind. It's really through the collaboration process with each individual representative of sales or marketing or operations or finance. And, at the end of the day, it's education, it's cascading. What you learn in the executive team or these leadership teams on down further into the organization, so that everyone has a piece of the pie and everyone understands, the levers that they have to pull. Because, that's, at the end of the day, everyone wants to be involved in the organization and how they can make it better, how they can make, increase cash flow, how they can increase profitability. So it's really a holistic system, and it starts with education, strategy, explanation, benchmarking, and cascading it down into the organization as far as you can go.
Which I love. We've talked about education here before, that there's an opportunity for the CFO to sort of instill a culture of financial literacy inside of an organization. How does this management and better understanding of my levers, what's my competitive advantage there? How does that help me stay ahead, stay on top of whatever my competitors or the market dynamics are going to be doing?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I believe that, like we talked about earlier, a lot of focus for a lot of businesses is really on the sales line. So I think if you're digging in to this quagmire of cost of goods sold and understanding, okay, and peeling back the layers and understanding what I would call hidden costs. There are costs there, but you really don't see them. You don't understand them. And what are those levers inside these hidden costs that you can drive? And I think a lot of businesses, again, focus very much on the top line, sales growth, sales volume, pricing, and there's really a lack of, I don't know if it's desire or comfort level digging into costs that are non-sales related.
And that's where a strategic mind like a CFO, I think, can really shed some light and peel that back, because the CFO is really great at that, and they're naturally adept at that, and they're fascinated with that. That's their strength.
Absolutely. Every CFO loves to dig down deep into the details, and they love to find these nuggets, right? They love to find ways other than just sales of how to help a company and how to help increase cash flow, how to help increase profit. I mean, that's what most of us just love to do.
I'm going to leave it at that because I love the idea of leaving this on love, and on bringing somebody into your team that's just so excited to dig into all these gnarly details. And you don't just have levers; you have tiny little buttons and itty bitty little knobs you could be pulling, and that's the kind of ambition and person and perspective that we want in the room with this stuff. Kent Gray. Man, what a great conversation, and I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to having you back. As far as I'm concerned, we could take every one of these levers and just dive in and really explore them, and I think that would be fascinating.
Absolutely. Like I said, there's 7 of them, and I'd love to dive into each one of them.
All right, man, you're on. We're going to have you back, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Visit ProCFOPartners.com for more strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help you put your business's financial picture in context.